and a £20 million UK Government Neighbourhood Fund, RIL is on the up. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that only with two Labour governments working together can we restore pride in our Welsh seaside towns? Join me for a stroll on our new promenade to see just what RIL has to offer.
Well, that's a very appealing invitation just at the moment. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be putting power and resources directly back in the hands of local people in communities like RIL. That £20 million can be used for issues that matter most to them, include revitalising their high street, a cause that I know is crucial to many residents, including hers. Just 1 in 14 communities across Wales is benefiting from the Pride in Place funding. This is the renewal you get with a Labour government working with a Labour government in Cardiff.
Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maternity services are a vital part of women's healthcare, but sadly too many women are being failed. At Cheltenham General Hospital, the Evita Birth Centre was temporarily closed for labour and births back in 2022. Last week we learned that there will be no decision about a potential plan for reopening it until spring next year. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that 4 years is far too long to ask local mums-to-be to wait? And can he give me reassurance that a temporary downgrade that was made under the Conservatives will not become permanent under his government?
I tell him that our starting point is that we must always make sure that every mother is heard, understood and gets the quality of care that is needed. The Independent National Maternity Investigation and Local Health Needs Assessment are due to report in spring of next year, as he says. It's right that the recommendations of both of them are closely considered in any decision for Cheltenham, and I'll make sure that he's kept updated as that rolls out.
Jim Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I say that I've long thought that both you and the Prime Minister would suit a magnificent moustache, and I'm sure you'd be capable of growing a better one than this. Many of us men in this House and outside are growing our tash out this month to highlight the need for our health system and men ourselves to address preventable and treatable conditions to which all men are vulnerable, including prostate cancer, testicular cancer and mental health conditions such as depression. Does the Prime Minister agree that the forthcoming first ever men's health strategy, soon to be published, must lead to a major step change in the way our country helps men stay well?
Well, as he knows, my #1 priority is growth, so I'm very glad to see his upper lip. He's obviously championing this himself. And can I send my best wishes to everyone growing a moustache this November? It is right, Mr. Speaker, to highlight that men are hit harder by a range of conditions, including cancer, cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. And that's why our men's health strategy will set out actions to improve the health of all men in England.
Rupert Noel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every week we hear of a brutal murder, rape or stabbing, far too often perpetrated by someone who should not be in our country to begin with. Does the Prime Minister agree that for cases where the guilt is so undeniable, the crime so monstrous, the evil so irredeemable, the reintroduction of the death penalty for both foreign and domestic criminals should be put to the British people in a legally binding referendum?
Can I first say that any attack is to be condemned, and it is absolutely right, and we're determined that there is a criminal justice response in relation to attack, however it's carried out and whoever it's carried out by. But reintroducing the death penalty is not the answer to this. It didn't work when it was in place. It led to the death of those that, in fact, turned out were innocent. But what we must do is improve, as we are, the criminal justice response in this country.
Kevin Bonavia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to pay tribute to a new veterans group in Stevenage called the Muster Point, founded by Stuart Mendelsohn and Steve Black. Last week, I joined them at a continuous 72-hour vigil at Stevenage War Memorial, where veterans shared stories of family and friends lost in war. But veterans deserve more than just our tributes. So will the Prime Minister commit to working with veterans in Stevenage and across the UK in delivering this government's new veteran strategy in full.
One of the greatest honours in this role is meeting and thanking our armed forces for their service, which obviously we've been able to do during the course of this weekend and this week. Our ambition is to bring the Armed Forces Covenant fully into law in the next Armed Forces Bill, and we will do so. We're also renewing the contract with those who serve through our veteran strategy, including Homes for Heroes, a new network of support centres connecting charities and services with veterans. And Labour patriots stand with all those who serve and have served our country.
Stuart Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on that point, with the upcoming vote on the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill, 9 of the most respected and experienced generals of a generation have publicly attacked the government's approach on lawfare against our armed forces. They have said it will erode trust in the justice system and it is a threat to national security. As a veteran who served in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, does the Prime Minister think they're all wrong? And when is he actually going to start standing up for our veterans?
Can I begin by thanking him for his service to our country? And when former service chiefs raise an issue, we will, of course, engage with them. Of course, I respect their service and their views, and will do so. We are having to get rid of unlawful legislation and putting in place a system with clear rights and protections for veterans, and we'll continue to try to get that balance right.
Anderson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. 4 years ago, I brought in a private member's bill to ban the sale of wet wipes with plastic in. The last government dragged its feet. These wet wipes cause fatbergs in our sewers and millions of pounds on our water bills for all of our constituents and pollute rivers and seas. This government promised to bring in this ban and is doing so now. Will the Prime Minister join with me on celebrating a Labour promise delivered and share the message that we should always bin wet wipes and other wipes, not flush them?
Well, can I commend her? She's been a long-standing campaigner on this important issue, and the public is right to be furious about how the last government allowed sewage to pour into our lakes, rivers and seas. Alongside tough new powers to combat pollution, this ban will put an end to plastic wet wipes that litter our beaches, clog up our sewers and harm wildlife.
David Chadwick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lloyds Bank have over 31,000 customers in my constituency, and yet many of those customers, particularly the elderly and the vulnerable, are struggling to get out their own cash. That's because Lloyds have closed their branches in Brecon, in Prestine, in Ustragunlice and, before the end of this month, in Pontedower. That's despite making billions in profits and paying their CEO £5 million. Will the Prime Minister write to Lloyds Bank and ask them to keep that last branch in Pontedower open?
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising that, and I'll look at the particular example that he's raised. As he will know, we're rolling out hubs, some of them already in place and more to come, and I'll happily update him on where they're likely to be.
Final question, Richard Quigley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following the work of our APPG for eating disorders, I was horrified to hear that 19-year-old Lily Cliff, who suffers from anorexia, has been placed on an end-of-life care pathway after Rotherham, Doncaster and South Humber NHS Foundation Trust obtained a Court of Protection ruling to withdraw her treatment. This decision directly contradicts NICE guidelines and the Minister for Care's own statement in September that eating disorders are not a terminal illness. Will the Prime Minister urgently review this case to ensure that Lily and her family receive the support they need and that Lily is given every possible chance to recover and live, and remind all ICBs, NHS and hospitals that suffering from an eating disorder is not a terminal illness?
Well, first, my thoughts are with Lily and her family, and the details he raises are really deeply concerning. I know he's raised this with health ministers, and I'll make sure he gets a swift response. He is a powerful advocate for change, and I share his determination that everyone with an eating disorder gets the care and the support that they need.
Let the front benches change over. We now come to the urgent question. Louis French.
To ask the Secretary of State if she will make a statement on the appointment of the Independent Football Regulator.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2021, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson set up the fan-led review of football and selected Dame Tracy Crouch to chair it. This led to a clear recommendation for an independent football regulator, which was strongly endorsed on all sides of this House. The previous government promised they would deliver this regulator, but they didn't, leaving fans in the lurch as a result. This government made it a priority and passed that legislation within our first year because we are fully committed to protecting football clubs across the country. To make that a reality, the Minister for Sport confirmed David Cogan as the independent chair of the football regulator on the 6th of October. David Cogan was the exceptional candidate, warmly endorsed across the world of football and by the cross-party select committee. As the House will be aware, the Commissioner for Public Appointments conducted an investigation into the appointment itself, which was released last week. I am pleased that the report does not question the suitability of Mr Cogan as chair of the IFR. The report also makes clear that I did not personally know about the donations to my leadership campaign at the time that I selected him as the preferred candidate. It also recognises that as soon as I became aware of these donations, I chose to declare them and chose to recuse myself from the remainder of the process. However, as I have made clear, I acknowledge the findings of the report. The Commissioner was clear that the breach around donations to my campaign was unknowing, but I recognise that the highest standards were not met. And as the Secretary of State for the department that ran this appointment, I take full responsibility for that. And it is for that reason that I wrote to the Prime Minister and apologised for this error. I will, of course, ensure that lessons are learned from this process with my department. Our focus now is to make sure that no fan ever has to go through what I and my constituents lived through in Wigan. Implementing this regime to help protect clubs in financial peril and putting the interests of fans up and down the country first is a priority for this government, and led by David Cogan, the independent football regulator, will get on with the job. We're here today debating process, but this is also about real-world impact. Fans up and down the country need us to get on with delivering on our promise and making a difference. This is for Derby County, Scunthorpe United, for Morecambe, for Sheffield Wednesday, for Wigan, Reading, Macclesfield Town and Bury. We're putting fans back at the heart of the game where they belong.
Bench.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last Thursday, the Commissioner for Public Appointments